Stephen slowly opened his eyes, gasping as he saw that he was underwater, suspiciously in the ocean. What shocked him for a second more was that he was breathing, so he suspected that this was some kind of lucid dream. At first, when he stared at the scenery around him, he was amazed on how beautiful it was. The sunlight shone through the surface, reflection shed light onto the multiple coral. The fish's scales shimmered as they swam by him. He even recognized them, the purple fish on the Mask Island, and the palisade he got its layers and he got stuck in. But at the moment, he didn't last over a minute. When he heard a loud screaming and grunting muffled by the water, swerving around his body, Stephen gasped when he saw Lapis and Jasper fighting. He definitely couldn't understand what they were saying, but Lapis's tone sounded more desperate and Jasper screamed back, furious. However, Jasper saw him promptly. Lapis's turned around as well. While the blue gem's eyes widened in horror, screaming at him frantically, Jasper let out an angry roar of fury and then charged towards him. However, when Stephen woke up in cold sweat, he then sat up and looked around. The crystal gems were already gathered nearby. "Today is already the day?" Spinel exclaimed. Her panic in her voice made known. "Yes," Peridot said, pulled out a file of the cluster from her limb enchanter screen. "The cluster's starting to make some tremors every quarter hour. Then the full scale of earthquakes. And then it'll destroy Earth. We have to drill right now." Stephen got up, but Lapis and Jasper are still out there. "Lapis and Jasper?" the gems yelled in shock. Peridot just looked confused. "What?" "I was in the ocean with them, and they were fighting," Stephen explained. I think they were at Mask Island." Amethyst coughed out a piece of her sandwich. "I know Jasper is trying to break free from Lapis, whose power is weakening," stated Garnet. Spinel's eyes were filled with sympathy. "Poor Lapis. We're gonna have to go save her." "And stop Jasper," added Pearl. Garnet strengthened it up. "All right, Gems, Pearl, Amethyst, Spinel, and I will warp up to the mask. Stephen, it's too dangerous for you. You stay here and watch the drill with Peridot. Let's go, Gems, to the nearest warp—" "Wait!" Spinel interrupted them, and they walked over to Peridot, who placed her hands on her shoulders. "Peridot, please keep Stephen safe." Peridot nodded firmly. "I will." Spinel smiled while waving back in a tight hug before parted, and then crouching down to Stephen's eyes and into his level. "Be good, love. We'll be right back." "I know," Stephen hugged her. "I love you." Spinel hugged him back. "I love you too." Sighing, she parted from him and stood up. "Let's go." Then she, Pearl, Garnet, and Amethyst ran off to the closest warp pad, and Stephen continued to wave at them goodbye until they were out of sight. Peridot patted his shoulder. By the time they arrived, the four gems made it to the beach and watched Jasper, still enveloped with the water shackles, shrugged it to push herself off the ocean, grunting and gritting her teeth. Behind her was Lapis. "No," the blue gem protested frantically. "You are not going anywhere. Get back here." She almost succeeded, but with the urge of anger, Jasper pulled towards her. "Give up." Jasper continued to push, stepping down onto the sand, completely drenched. "You can't keep me here forever." "I can!" Lapis gasped, trying so hard to drag her back, but it seemed that months of all using her powers have taken a toll upon her, and finally Lapis fell to her knees, the water chains falling to around the ground, releasing Jasper. Jasper heaved for breath. But will I stay? I'm impressed. You really held out." "Lapis!" Spinel shrieked, catching the other gem's attention. Jasper instantly glared at the gems. "You!" Garnet stood up, and the other three gems readied themselves. "Jasper, we don't need to fight. Just leave Lapis alone and go." "Leave? Like a coward?" Jasper snapped. "Never! I'll be fighting if it's the last thing I do." "No, Jasper," Spinel shook her head. "You're facing off against four. You're outnumbered." But the quartz shoulder grinned. "I may be outnumbered, but 4 gems is nothing. I cannot wait to tear you new gems apart." With the battle of cries, she summoned her helmet and charged towards them. Lapis tried to lift herself up, but she was too exhausted, and to do so she fainted, lying on her side and half of it submerged underwater of the shore. The fight immediately started, Jasper charging at the Garnet first, and the fusion blocking their helmet alone from the gunlets. Amethyst cracked her whips and began to dash around with the orange gem, but it was only enough to knock her down. Pearl then came off with the spear ready to strike, but Jasper shot up and tried to slam her helmet onto her, but Pearl quickly dodged away. "Leave her alone!" Spinel had her legs turn into a spring and bounce off of a rocky Key Wallen crashed into Jasper, and the two sliding down the beach with Spinel pinning her down. You don't have a chance against us, Spinel panted. Just leave. We won't have to do this. Jasper grunted, grabbing Spinel by the throat and slamming her onto the sandy ground. Spinel shrugged against her as Jasper loomed over her. If you don't want to fight badly, then what are you doing here anyway? She taunted, interrupted when a spear was tossed at her. If you're not poofing her this time, Pearl proclaimed, pulling out another spear and thrust it towards Jasper, striking again. With the gems distracted, Spinel kicked Jasper off of her and then grabbing her and spinning her around, and threw her against the side crystal lined wall. She should have sworn that the green shaped grape didn't dart away from the impact, but she ignored it. Spinel turned her attention to Lapis and ran over to her. Lapis, are you okay? Lapis didn't respond, but Spinel could say their heavy breathing was that she is exhausted. All gems together, Garnet ordered, along with Pearl and Amethyst behind her. We could beat her by attacking her individually. We need to stick together. Amethyst, Pearl, and Spinel all nodded. Right. Our world's about to break. Tormented attack, but with no way to go back. But we are not standing on our own, and we're never alone. Gems assemble. Jasper was already charging at them once, but the fight escalated, causing more destruction around the beach and the island. We will fight as one, till the battle's won. With evil on the run, we are never come undone. Now Jasper was beginning to have a difficult time fighting them all. They kept attacking until they were unable to pick out one fight and without another intervene. But before they could hit their last hit in slow motion, Garnet was right on in front of her. We will fight for our love. She then punched upwards into the air. We will look out for each other's mind, Amethyst sang, using her two whips to slam down to the ground. There isn't any problem we can't solve. Pearl ran towards her with her spear, but Jasper blocked it, only to get warped in by Spinel's coiled arms. And we won't let you win and hurt mankind, Spinel nearly screamed in reverse as she swerved her body through Jasper with the force of her, making the orange gem crash into the trees. Wounded, Jasper tried to get up, but the gems approached her. Assemble, we are strong. Forever we fight as one. Assemble, we are strong. Forever fights as one. Jasper didn't make another move, but only panted out, You only beat me because you were all living together. If you weren't all here, I would have beaten one of you. Spinel scowled at the quartz soldier. Go away, Jasper. You've caused a lot of trouble today. Jasper stared at her and then snarled, You crystal chumps got lucky this time. But I'll be back. Next time, I'll be stronger than you. She then turned and fled to the ocean, planning to keep a promise. You know, you could have just squished her right then and there, said Amethyst. Spinel paused for a moment. Let's just get Lapis and somewhere safe and sound. The other gems gathered around shore, Spinel holding the still passed out Lapis in her arms. They heard a grunt and they saw a watermelon, Stephen running towards them. Huh? Spinel almost stepped back as the watermelon creature hugged her. Oh, hello there, little guy. The watermelon, Stephen looked up at her, making weird, desperate noises, pointing itself, and the gems were confused by this thing, what it was trying to say, but realized who it actually was. Stephen? Spinel asked. Is that really you? Stephen nodded, then stared at Lapis in concern. Oh, don't worry, Stephen. She's just exhausted. She'll be fine. We better have even beat Jasper, Amethyst joined in excitedly. Isn't that cool? But before Pearl or Garnet could say anything else, the island around them began to shake. A fissure creating itself, and the giant gaps spreading around the island, even splitting the warp pad in half and cracked heard through enough of the island. Spinel wrapped her arms around Stephen and the gems and Lapis. Garnet clung into the edge so they wouldn't fall off the crevice. It's the cluster, Garnet realized. Peridot was right. Stephen, it's up to you. The warp pack got destroyed, and we won't make it back in time. Wake up, get Peridot, and start drilling. Stephen clung into him tightly, but Spinel was quick to reassure him. It's all right. We'll find a way back home. You can do this, Stevie. We all believe in you. Stephen nodded and began closing his eyes, hearing the gems speaking. You got this, dude, said Amethyst. You know the drill. Be careful, Stephen, Pearl added. Watch for others' backs. We all love you, Garnet finished, before Stephen saw nothing but black. No words could describe how glad Spinel was, not only for both Stephen and Peridot were okay, but they were all bubbled by the whole cluster, stopping it from forming and destroying it. The Earth. She know for a fact that they have saved Earth, and that their former attempts from the past weren't all for it. Peridot was busy telling them the story of how she and Stephen went through. She was shocked at first when Stephen told them that she had talked to the cluster itself, but she was happy that he wasn't harmed in the intense bit. But there was someone that she was still worried about, Lapis. Of course, she knew Lapis wasn't hurt, but all those months of keeping Jasper in the ocean had really had her left her tired, unable to move that much at all. All Spinel could do was wish that the comfort blue gem and hug and cuddle her with her until she felt better. But she knew she needed some time alone, and she respected that. Spinel now knew that would respect be every free choice that the Lapis would make. Are you sure about this? Spinel gently asked. After several hours, she and Stephen, who was also concerned, decided to visit her to find her recover and about to leave. Yeah, Stephen agreed. There is so much to see on Earth. Lapis didn't turn around one bit. I don't belong here on Earth. Not with the crystal gems. Never have. Well, if that's what you want, we won't stop you, said Spinel. She truly wants Lapis to leave soon, but never to make someone against her will. Wish we could have hung out more, Stephen added. It feels like we only got to know each other when something terrible goes on. Lapis turned her head and smiled sadly. That's just how it is with me. Thank you, Stephen. Spinel. Goodbye again. Goodbye, they both replied, teary-eyed. Lapis took off in the night sky, disappearing from the sight. Spinel, of course, continued to wave before stopping and placed her hands on Stephen's shoulders. She hoped that the blue gem would come back. After all, the more the merrier, right? The next day, after chatting with Peridot and seeing how much they were going to stay in the barn, Spinel walked outside. She had a lingering feeling in her gemstone, still thinking about Lapis. Where could she have really gone to? Homeworld? Definitely not. Hey, Spinel, Stephen ran to her, cutting her thoughts. Have you seen Lion around? Spinel blinked, but got what he meant. I'm afraid not. Let's go look for him, shall we? With a cheerful nod, the two wandered off into the area, trying to find the pink feline. However, when they noticed that something else was on top of the silo, something not giant, but not pink, not a feline, Lapis? With Stephen sitting on their shoulders, Spinel climbed to the top of the silo, careful not to fall, and sat down next to her. Hey, she murmured. We thought you left. Of course, the blue gem sighed. I was leaving when I realized I've got nowhere to go. Who knows what could they have done back to me at home after what I did to Jasper. I can't go back to Homeworld, and I can't stay here. Spinel nodded a bit, not blaming the poor gem for what happened. Stephen seemed to think of something. Hey, why don't Spinel and I take you for a tour around the tri-state area? A tour? Lapis stared at them. Spinel gave her a bright smile. Of course, we could show you around the places that you would like to stay in. There are so many places other than the barn in Beach City. Stephen began counting his fingers. There is Surf City, Sea City, Aquatown, Bayberg. Those are just the places I know. And there's more than just those, Spinel added. Besides, it never hurts to look. Lapis thought for a moment. Okay then. As Lapis summoned her wings, Spinel placed Stephen on her back and shifted into a swallow. Couldn't you just carry Stephen? Lapis asked, lifted Stephen on her back. Spinel hugged her, shrugged her, and admitted her. Not when I can fly or in this size. Now let's go. Yay! Stephen cheered as both Lapis and Spinel took a flight. They all traveled through the skies, flying over the moving train in the forest up ahead. How about this? Stephen shrugged. You could live out in the country. There's no noise, no rules, and if you're just becoming one with nature. Spinel laughed a bit. That's if you can handle the sounds of birds, squirrels, and the rest of the wildlife. Lapis lifted her head. Birds, squirrels, and wildlife? She drove underneath the trees. Spinel joined her aside, avoiding the branches right in front of them. Stephen then ducked his head underneath a large branch. Whoa, haha! Yeah, this place has got a great shelter. You can protect yourself from the rain and snow, and by the sticks and leaves. Be careful, though, as the leaves change color in the fall depending on the season. But why? The plant's life needs to rest in the cold season, known as winter. Spinel answered at her as they flew around the trees. In the spring and summer, they're green, but in the fall, they turn red, orange, and yellow. In the winter, they fall off and the trees rest. Wow, Lapis glazed at the sun of the amazement. But maybe not here. Right, Stephen nodded, understanding. Looking at his GPS on his phone. There are still other places we could show you. Come on. Onward, Spinel flew ahead, prompting Lapis to follow her. By the time they reached to Empire Bay, night slowly began to fall. Lapis also didn't like the thought of living in bright, loud city. even Jersey, while people still seem to hate the Earth. 3 of them flew above the clouds, sighing. Wow, Stephen gasped. It's so beautiful up here. Lapis didn't really share his excitement, smiling anyway. It's alright. I guess you could kind of say you like it that way. I have to agree with you, Lapis, said Spinel. I've seen so many stars and so many times before. The blue gem then got an idea and smirked down Stephen. Hold on. But before Spinel knew it, Lapis sped up and did a loop-de-loop, dropping Stephen in the process. Spinel let out a loud shriek in fear, but immediately calmed down when Lapis caught him. Oh, don't do that ever again, Spinel nearly yelled at her, both panicked but relieved. Lapis chuckled nervously in response. Sorry, Spinel, I couldn't help it. Spinel sighed only by smiling when Stephen was laughing from excitement. By now the moon shone over them, and Spinel noticed that they were flying over the ocean. Whoa, it's getting late, she noted. And are we already at the ocean? Stephen narrowed his eyes down when he caught something else. Oh wait, that's the galaxy warp. Cool. Lapis stared intensely at the warp, slowly loosening her grip on the boy. Spinel noticed and squawking at the blue gem before she could drop her boy. Stephen was nearly yelled at by Lapis that she was going to fall, but she quickly grabbed him tightly. Sorry, Lapis apologized. I'm sorry. They flew into the galaxy warp, and of course Spinel shape-shifting back to her normal form, and Lapis summonedly stepped over the broken main warp. This is where I was abandoned, she spoke. Spinel's eyes glittered with sympathy. Oh, Lapis! She walked over to the gem, running down her hand down her back, and Stephen joined her side. What happened? He asked. Silently, Lapis began to use her powers, creating walls of her surrounding the warp, and the water pooled around her feet. The blue gem walked over the main warp, flooding it and projecting it at the crystal-clear surface. Both Stephen and Spinel stared into it. It's like a mirror, Stephen whispered. Lapis told her story, and the water was showing her memories. It was thousands of years ago. I was meant to visit for a short time, but I got caught in the middle of what it was awful. I tried to run, but I was picked up by my homeworld soldier, confused for a crystal gem, and used me as a tool. They would ask me to show us the base. Where is your leader? I didn't know. I couldn't say that I'm one of them. It soon became too clear that there was no hope in me in stopping this rebellion. All of the homeworld of the gems had fled, and of course the panic of the escaping Earth. I was left behind. Here I stayed, freedom in my sight, but reached out for the ages until I was found. The last image was Lapis of how Spinel, appearing slightly different than the mirror, and grabbed a hold of it. Spinel cringed as the former self grasped in shock, and the rest of the crystal gems trying to snatch it out of her hands. The vision faded, but of course Lapis finally let go of the water, Spinel catching her before she could collapse. Are you okay? Stephen asked gently. Lapis lifted her head. I'll be fine. She straightened up. Lapis, I'm so sorry I couldn't free you earlier, Spinel mumbled, feeling guilty. The blue gem then saw the gesture in their eyes. It's okay. Should we go back? Yeah, it sounds like a great idea, Spinel said, looking up at the moon. It's getting late. Shifting back into a swell, Spinel flew up, followed by Lapis with Stephen on her back as they flew away from the galaxy warp. For a moment I felt that things were different, Lapis vented. But they're not. No matter where you go, I'm trapped. But you're not, Stephen responded. You're not underwater. You're not in the mirror this time. You're free. But yeah, I'm still on Earth. Spinel decided to speak up. And so are we. But if you want to know why we're staying here, is because Earth doesn't keep still, and it changes every month and every day and every year. And believe me, I knew that I was like that for a very long time. And why do you think I want to make friends with you? Lapis stared in the moment, almost awestruck. You don't have to be alone anymore. You don't even need Jasper. You have us. We promise, Lapis. We want to make you as free and safe and sound around here. If anyone you want to talk to, you can come to me. The blue gem couldn't respond, only biting her lip in the thought. When they got back to the barn, Lapis placed Stephen down, and Spinel changed back to her normal form once more. I know you can't go back to your homeworld, said Stephen, but if you stay here, it'll be your choice to stay here. Spinel nodded. He's right. You are always welcome here on Earth. Lapis blinked and then clapped her hair. Gee, thanks. I never took the time to see Earth. No problem, Spinel said kindly. Lapis almost felt some sort of pressure lift around her shoulders. So, can I stay? Both Spinel and Stephen nodded. Yeah. Almost at once, Lapis brightened up. Then I'm staying. Like here? Stephen asked. Here, Lapis chirped. Suddenly, Peridot popped in. Yes, here, everyone. She paused in confusion. What were you talking about? You! Lapis backed away. Spinel laughed nervously. Hey, Lapis. She sneaked behind the green gem. You remember me, Peridot? Now before you got mad or scared or both? I would like to say that she's not planning to lock you or ask you for information and nearly get you killed again. Lapis looked away from them, very worried. Peridot then cleared her throat. Hello there, Lazul. It's nice to see you again. Again, she said. She held out her hand for a handshake. However, Lapis glowed a bit and then crossed her arms, refusing the handshake. Immediately, Spinel and Steven became worried, and of course, they couldn't blame her for being so hesitant. Despite their conversation, Spinel now knew it was going to be a challenge.